there's anything that you need, just that chain to Joe and Tim.
Live for eternity.
So just let us know. We can do to help. Have a great summer.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I'll take a picture. Yeah, I'll take a picture of it right now. Look, T. McGregor. Sorry. All those back there, Faber. Team Benavides. That's great. Yeah.
Everyone, and thank you for joining us for this celebration of life for Stephan Bonnar. I want to thank all of you for coming. I truly believe it would have meant a lot to him that you're all here. Of course, it seems odd to talk about or to celebrate the life of someone that passed away so young, but one thing I can say about Stephan is he had all his adventures. He did everything you would want to do with a life. There's plenty to celebrate. He had some amazing stories, and I was fortunate enough to be part of a few of them. And I guess I'll start here by telling a few of the cooler adventures we've had. And I'll be honest, the first couple adventures that came to mind were not PG, but I did manage to settle on a few. Some of you may know that Stephan and I actually fought a couple times, and that was how you get to know each other. You fight a person, you feel like you know them pretty well, just like in middle school. We after The Ultimate Fighter, we shared a hospital room together, and that's where we got to know each other, because the emergency room put us in beds right next to each other. But it was okay because we had this curtain, the sheet for privacy, which, just made things more awkward. So I think it was Stephan who moved the curtain, and so we started talking. And due to the fact that a Vegas ER on a Saturday night, being a little bit cut and needing some stitches is not a priority, we had time to learn each other's life stories. And then we decided that what we had to do was get for me it was my best friend Roy, and for Stephan it was his future wife Andrea, to go get us some fast food. So they did. Stephan, he went through a McDonald's phase. Some of you know that. It's unfortunate, but it happens to everyone. So they went and got us $20 worth of McDonald's, and in $20 in 2005 money would actually get you a substantially large amount of extremely mediocre food. So there we are, eating McDonald's burgers in the ER, and our next course of action, as you can imagine, was to figure out how to get some beers in there. Thanks to the inefficiency of the hospital system in Vegas and the popularity of the Vegas ER on a Saturday night, we got to know each other's life stories. He had grown up a martial artist, doing taekwondo and reading stories about Bruce Lee and practicing and studying his principles. I wasn't really that familiar with martial arts, and to me, martial arts was an old guy in pajamas trying to convince me to do weird things. So I wasn't huge on it, but he actually convinced me that martial arts was an art. It wasn't just about fighting. And that's one of the cool things that I really wanted to share with you, is that he was a martial artist. He studied these principles. I know he talked about being tough, but you know, he thought that martial arts was the way to that. Now, he grew up with a couple older brothers that helped make him tough, so he didn't lack for toughness thanks to his older brothers. I grew up with a younger brother that played violin, so not a lot of toughness in our family. So the more we talked, the more I realized we were the yin and yang to each other. He was the exact same as me, but the complete opposite. And by the time the doctors got there to stitch us up, I'm pretty sure Stephan was looking through the cabinet seeing if he could find a needle and thread. And that's when I decided that every good fight after party should start in the ER. In case I didn't know Stephan enough, I really got to know him when we traveled to London to help casting for The Ultimate Fighter. Now, we thought that we were going to be talent scouts. We thought we'd moved up in the world. No, what we actually were going to do, later we found out, was roll with 40 hungry dudes that wanted to be on The Ultimate Fighter and show us, or show Dana through us by beating us up how tough they were. So we rolled with these guys for 3 hours. But the cool thing was, that was the first time either of us had flown first class, and we got to fly next to Dana White, which is pretty cool. It's 2005 or 6, so that was big time. When we landed, I guess Stephan felt the need to get that first class energy off of him, and of course he decided that we had to find a British McDonald's, that it was some sort of exotic delicacy. Which, you know, is a little weird, but you fly first class, you eat McDonald's, it evens out, I'm sure. A couple hours later, now this is like 3 in the morning, I text him, whoa, this is 2005 or 6, so this is like before phones were magic and could, you know, entertain you. Hey, what's up? You know, are you up? And of course he was, and I guess my plan was that the two of us would wander around London in the middle of the night, and maybe if there were 2 of us, we wouldn't get mugged. So I get to his room, and he's doing what one does if they put a treadmill in your room. You know, hotel room treadmills are actually kind of a cool thing, but he's running on it naked. No shoes, no socks, completely naked running on it, which, you know, I said, Stephan, that's a little weird. Why are you doing that? But his answer is actually why I decided we were buds for life. He had taken a shower since the plane, so he'd taken his dirty plane clothes off, and he didn't want to put those back on. And then he only had budgeted enough underwear for 1 a day. So if he sweat in his underwear tonight, he wouldn't have any fresh for the flight back. And I said, oh my God, I also only brought a carry-on. That is amazing, buds for life. And I had, in my whole fairness to me, I brought 6 pair of underwear instead of the 5. Just, you never know when you might need an extra.
And I'm gonna be brief today, so you can hear from people who were very close to him and who will speak about Stephan, the man, better than I ever could. Forrest was awesome. That was incredible. Thank you, Forrest. But what I want to talk about today is Stephan the fighter and what he meant to the UFC and to the sport. Stephan Bonnar is one of the most important figures in the history of this company and mixed martial arts. That's why the Tough One finale between Stephan and Forrest is the first fight ever inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame. And it's funny how things kind of play out when I look back. You know, I don't have all the crazy friendship stories that Forrest does, but that first season of The Ultimate Fighter was the longest season that we ever did. And, you know, most of the guys that were in that house, Forrest included, Stephan included, were a little nutty. And the longer they were in there, the nuttier they got. You know, there were so many different things that happened that season, but when you look at the way life plays out and the way that things happen, it's crazy, because at one point, Stephan went in and told the producers that he was going to take a shower. He snuck out the window. Now remember, you're talking back in, this is 2005, 2004, 2005-ish. The house that they were in was in the middle of the desert. It was in the middle of nowhere. Stephan sneaks out the window of the bathroom to go look for booze, because we took booze out of the house because these guys are acting like idiots in there, and we finally had to take the liquor out. And he disappears, and he's gone for hours. They can't find him, and when we finally do bring him back, everybody's saying, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna kick him out? Are you gonna kick him out? And for whatever reason, I did not kick him out of the house, thank God, or probably wouldn't be up here talking today. But in late 2004, we started filming The Ultimate Fighter. The UFC was obviously in pretty rough shape. Frank Lorenzo and I were producing the reality show as a last-ditch effort to turn things around. But in the early stages of filming, this thing was so crazy. We didn't even know if season 1 was gonna air. We had no clue. It was a very weird time for the UFC, but obviously, tough season 1 did air on Spike TV in early 2005, and the ratings were incredible. But a successful reality show wasn't gonna be enough to pull us out of the hole that we were in. What we needed to do was build stars, and what we really needed was a great finale. It was the first live UFC fight on free TV, and it was either gonna make us or break us. And no disrespect to the cast of Tough One, I know some of you are here, but not a lot of those fights were great. They weren't the best fights in the world. There was only one fight on that card that changed the course of history. Forrest Griffin versus Stephan Bonnar. And the card that night never really showcased the back and forth battle and the grit and really what this sport is all about. Then Stephan and Forrest stepped into the octagon and went to war for 3 unbelievable rounds. The people in the arena, if any of you were there that night, and remember, you heard it at the end of the video too, they were stomping their feet. It sounded like a freight train was going through the place, and everybody was chanting, one more round, one more round. And the ratings went through the roof. And what was awesome that night was that both of these guys showed skill, incredible toughness, but more importantly, they were both so passionate and wanted to win so bad. They showed the largest audience we'd ever had what this sport was really all about. And obviously Forrest won a close decision, but like I said in the octagon that night, there was no loser in that fight because Stephan was equally responsible for how great the fight was, so we ended up giving him a contract too. And that night, there was much more on the line than just winning a reality show or a UFC contract. Literally, the future of the entire sport was at stake. Stephan and Forrest rose to the occasion and gave the performance of a lifetime. And they did it right when we needed it the most. They saved the sport, and we will never forget what they did that night. Obviously, Stephan went on to fight in the UFC for many more years, fought some of the greatest fighters of all time, Anderson Silva, Mark Coleman, Rashad Evans, and the GOAT, John Jones. Stephan loved to fight and compete. He was always ready, willing, and able to face anyone, anytime. The fans loved him because he was incredibly entertaining, and he was so tough, and Stephan Bonnar was a real fighter. Stephan was everything the UFC stands for. His contributions to this company will never be forgotten, and he will be greatly missed by all of us. And for Andrea and her family, you know, the UFC will always be your home. Anything you ever need from me or anybody in this company, do not ever hesitate to ask. We're here for you, for whatever you need. Remember that. Thank you all for coming today.